As I mentioned at the start of the show, we have a guest joining us in studio. It's Harvard graduate student, I actually think I called her Second Amendment hero, Leyla Pirnie, and she's here in studio. And welcome, Leyla.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And a lot of America heard your story, but in case some of our listeners didn't, or just want to remind them about it, you were a graduate student in Boston.
Yes.
At Harvard, living off campus, and you had a bit of a difference of opinion with your roommates about your possession of a gun. Would you just tell the story, tell what happened?
Sure. So basically, I was living in Boston with 6 other women that I didn't previously know. I didn't know anybody in Boston, so I thought this will be a great way to get to know some folks. And basically, I went home for a weekend back to Alabama. And when I came back, my roommates told me that they had searched my bedroom.
But it searched your bedroom?
Searched my bedroom without any prior consent from me. And they said that that was because I'm from the South. This was kind of during the Kavanaugh hearings, and I was pretty silent about my political beliefs because I was in Little Russia after all. So basically they said that my silence during Kavanaugh hearings and the fact that I was from the South, they thought I might be a Republican. So they saw my Make America Great Again hat in one of my drawers and decided to search my room to see if I was in fact a Republican. They ended up finding out that I had legally owned guns and ammo, and they weren't happy with that. So they told me to move out, and they said if I don't move out, they would talk to my landlord, try to get me evicted. And ultimately, my landlord had the police come search my room, which I invited them in. I wasn't hiding anything, and the police said, look, everything is legal and safe. There's no need to be concerned here. And my landlord said, despite the fact that everything is legal and safe, we would like for you to move out because some people are uncomfortable. And if you don't move out, you'll owe me $6,000 plus a month in rent if the girls decide that they want to leave.
So that's how he was able to coerce you, because he's implying that you drove them out if they would move out.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
There's so many elements of this story. I do want to get to the guns, but for just a moment. So I do understand. Would you call it Little Russia, Boston?
Little Russia. I would consider that Little Russia.
So you're in graduate school. I'm sorry, second year? Were you racked me up? Or?
First year. I was just there about 3 months when all of this started to happen. So the girls and I, we had great rapport. We had never had any arguments. And so it was pretty shocking to come home and find that out.
And they had searched your room because they thought you weren't animated or upset enough during the Kavanaugh hearing. Is that the reason they gave?
That's one of many reasons that they gave. It's one that stuck out to me. And just saying that because I'm from the South, I might be a Republican. This is all based on the premise that I might be a Republican. I never outwardly said anything about any kind of policy or political arguments, so.
And the Make America Great hat was in a drawer in your room?
In a drawer.
I'm just astonished that there wasn't some determination by the landlord to say, hey, this is a free country. She's not breaking the law. He just saw they're going to move out and it was a hassle to him to get new people in. Is that what he's...
Exactly. I think that he saw how the numbers stacked up against me, and he thought, well, I've got to keep more people in the house than just this one girl who is a conservative. And I think the decision on his part was easy until I went on Fox News about it. And I think that kind of got him to stop and think about the consequences of what happens when you want to limit somebody's rights.
So you went on Fox News about it, but did you end up you moved out eventually?
Eventually I did.
Okay, but you moved out because it was just not worth the battle with them? Is it?
It's not so much that. I got tired of being in an environment, not just in the house, but in Cambridge as a whole, where people are quick to victimize themselves. They're quick to call anybody racist, sexist, deplorable. And I just got kind of bored with that kind of mentality. being from the South, I think that you get raised with this kind of upbringing that says you're going to pull yourself up from your bootstraps and you're not going to complain. You're going to get your work done and be on your way. And that wasn't what I found in that community, and it just wasn't conducive with how I want to live my life.
Wow. So did Harvard get involved? Harvard, the school, get involved at all?
No, not at all. Fortunately, I can take my classes online here in Texas and still finish up, graduate with my degree, and be on my way.
Well, I'm glad for that much. But, well, actually, now all of Harvard's doing their classes online.
Exactly.
Everyone's out. Yeah. Wow. Well, this is an interesting thing because on the Second Amendment, we watched that tape a moment ago with Joe Biden. I think a lot of people think that it's mostly men who care about the Second Amendment. I mean, whether they're hunters or, there's a political element, or they're hunters or they're just, I want it in my home of self-defense. But you're really comfortable with guns. Tell me about your growing up life. Did you have guns a lot when you were growing up?
Absolutely. My father and I spent a lot of time, a lot of afternoons in the backyard shooting. We had a farm, and I think it was really important to him that I learned why we have the Second Amendment and how it protects us from tyranny, but it also protects us from we get to have self-defense in that form. And it was really important to him that I learned what it meant to be responsible and to be safe. So my upbringing was totally centered around responsibility and personal individual freedom.
So you handled many different kinds of guns growing up, is that right?
Mostly handguns, mostly pistols, and some shotguns, some rifles. I was never a big hunter or anything, but I certainly do enjoy it. But mostly it was about practicing being safe. Yeah.
Also you mentioned your dad talked to you about the idea that the Second Amendment is there not just to protect your home, but to keep the balance, or my words for it are the balance of power between the government and the people, to prevent tyranny. Can you tell me a little more what your dad taught you about that?
Sure. Well, I think my support of the Second Amendment is really three-pronged. So first and foremost, I'm American, and I'm really proud of that. And both of my grandfathers fought in World War II. And so as a beneficiary of their sacrifices, I think it's so important. It's one of my biggest duties to protect and preserve our rights, and that starts with the Second Amendment. Secondly, I was born and raised actually in Turkey in the Middle East, and I'm a dual citizen. So I'm sorry,
you're a dual citizen?
Dual citizen.
Wow, okay.
Unfortunately, I've seen how quickly a dictator can take hold and power over people.
Yes.
And especially so when they are not armed. Lastly, I'm a young woman, and I can't for the life of me understand why modern day feminists are so opposed to a woman's right to defend herself, especially when their whole message, their chief argument, is that they want equality between both sexes, but I can't understand why that doesn't apply to the greatest equalizer of all time.
The gun is, I like that. The gun is the greatest equalizer of all time. Okay, this isn't relevant to the Second Amendment, but I'm so curious. You grew up in Turkey.
Yes.
Was that because your dad's business or dad's job? Or?
Yes. Born and raised there. My parents are just fun and spontaneous. So they moved there kind of on a whim, ended up staying a really long time, and then we moved back to the States when I was 12.
Wow. So you were old enough to remember Turkey.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's really, this is not today's subject, but it's really unfortunate and sad how it's gone downhill in terms of personal freedom.
Completely. I still have family there, and unfortunately, they have been trying to tell me some stories. They can't disclose everything over the phone just out of fear.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gotten pretty bad there, pretty radicalized.
Yeah, we have a family friend who lives there too, and yeah, it's pretty bad. So this is interesting in this campaign cycle. So I want to kind of shift because you're a young Republican woman, you're a Second Amendment supporter, so you're already a little bit out of the ordinary for your age group. I say millennials. So you started a group here in Dallas. Is it just of young people to talk, of young women to talk about policy issues? Is it centered on guns, or is it broader than that?
It's broader. It's everything. I really want young women to understand what's at stake here And I don't think that it gets taken seriously enough. So with Texas Young Republicans, we partnered with the Texas Federation of Republican Women. And we're hoping to have panels where we invite women who are in business and who are in political leadership. And we want them to speak to this younger group of women about economics, history, what it looks like to be a leader in business in today's society as a woman. And lastly, I think one of the most important things we can touch on is the cultural shift that we're experiencing. Namely with, I think a lot of women these days equate promiscuity with empowerment. And to me, that's very sad. So we've got to get women to think about these issues in a different way, especially because I think they get sold so many false promises and lies on a day-to-day basis.
I love your Spunka initiative. So what is the name of the group?
It's going to be the Women in Leadership and Business panel.
And so your panels, you're obviously putting the events together. Your panels are going to consist of pretty much conservatives and Republicans, is that right? Or are you going to have both sides?
No, it's going to be conservatives, Republicans. We want to bring in women who might be even far left, women who are middle ground, but also women who are conservative that just don't really know how to argue their points that they do have. And we want to say, look, here's what we believe. Here's why we have to protect the Constitution. I mean, a lot of women that I talk to don't even know what the Bill of Rights is. So it's getting that messaging out there that says, this is what our country was founded on. And it's important that you know this, and it's also important that you defend it.
Okay, so to be clear, your audience could be women far left, middle, conservative, but the panel is conservatives. You pick the topic. So how do you find these women? How do you get people to come and listen to this? Who's your audience?
It's really grassroots. So first off, we're inviting women who are in Texas Young Republicans. So Dallas Young Republicans, Tarrant County, Collin County, all those women. But we're also telling them, go out there. Maybe you'll be at work, or maybe you have a friend in school, and just have a conversation. Say, look, why don't you come to this panel? It's not going to be contentious. We're just talking about our viewpoints. And, you know, worst case scenario, maybe you'll learn something and be able to walk away with a point that you want to argue against, and you'll know how to arm yourself with that. But at least have a position and know where you stand on these issues, because it's imperative.
So the panel, I think this is such a great idea. I love that you came up with this. So if this is it every couple months, or what's your frequency you want to?
Well, we want to start it off, we were going to do April 2nd, but unfortunately with coronavirus, things have been shut down. So we want to have this initial panel, see what turnout is like, see what we can improve upon, see which speakers we can get after this first panel. And I think we're just going to have to see how it all plays out and how receptive people are to it. But my hope is that this will help women at least understand the positions that conservatives take, because there's so much misinformation out there about what Republicans really stand for.
Oh, yes. It's amazing.
Right. I want women to understand that the Republican Party platform is very pro-woman. It's way more pro-woman than the left side, but women get hammered with all of these fallacies that Republicans somehow hate women. So that's the point that I really want to make clear to these women.
So it's not necessarily directly political. It's not candidates.
No.
It's just, so it's themed subjects. They said business, economics, I'm sorry, what else?
History, Constitution, self-defense, anything. It can be any topic. We're going to open it up also to our guests there who want to bring up a topic that might not have been touched on. And we really want to make it conversational.
That sounds good. It's a Q&A.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really like that. So people in the audience, they can come figuring, I'm liberal, I understand these are Republicans, I'm going to challenge them, and they can do that. They can...
Exactly. If you're familiar at all with Turning Point USA, that's kind of, I work with Turning Point USA as an ambassador. So the inspiration is kind of behind that idea that even if you don't agree, you can come up and ask questions. And the whole point of this is we have to get back to be in a society that has dialogue and not just threats because we don't agree with people. That's kind of, what happened at Harvard. We are very much in this society right now where people feel entitled to attack instead of just have a conversation. So it's getting people in that mindset again.
I love that idea. In fact, it's one of the themes of my show I talk about all the time is that the American political conversation started before we were a country. It started in New England when people were debating the idea, can we stand up against King George? Do we have the right to complain about excessive taxes? And I mean, those conversations gave rise ultimately to the Declaration of Independence, is kind of laying out, yes, we do have these rights simply because we were born.
Exactly. And when you look at other countries, you notice that a lot of people in their lifetimes will never have the ability to say what is on their mind. So why not use this incredible right that we have to the best of our advantage and understand people's viewpoints and make something good of it?
So it's not a membership organization, is that right?
No. We do hope that having Texas Young Republicans and Texas Federation of Republican Women sponsor this, that will gain membership on both sides. But a big part of this also is driving up the numbers for voter turnout. We want people, I think that if you make your rights personal to you, then you have much more of a chance of getting out there and engaging with your community and wanting to talk about these things and then ultimately voting. So hopefully we'll increase voter turnout for Republicans and get the ball rolling there.
I just love this idea. So once you get this going, I mean, it seems like the kind of idea this could be a template of that could occur in other states. Other Leyla Pirnies could say, and some say, I could do that. I mean, really, don't you think?
Well, I hope so. I hope that's what it inspires. I think a lot of young people are really yearning to have conversations like this, and they just don't get that kind of forum to be able to do it. So then they take out their aggressions on college campuses or against their parents, professors,
against
whatever it is, against their roommates. And so the whole point of this is really to say, all right, you have your time to talk. What do you want to say? Do you have a real opinion? Let's hear it.
Yeah, it is such a shame how much of our political conversation, and it's in the form of protest marches where if you are there to chant a slogan and then the opponents are along the side and they're chanting their slogan, and even college campuses, you hear about the conversations where you may have a speaker come and those opposed to the speaker, all they're doing is yelling or chanting no or calling them a hater, all this hater and bigot language.
Right.
It is actually depriving everyone of understanding each other.
Well, I think that especially when you look at college campuses, it's really sad what's happening here because everything that the left disagrees with, they want to categorize it as hate speech.
Right.
So then you get into that slippery slope of saying, okay, well, we can't ban speech because then nobody's ever going to hear ideas from the other side. And it also hurts people on the left. This is what I can't understand. It hurts people on the left to not hear our arguments because I think the best way to debate somebody is to see how exactly they're thinking,
sure, and
why they're thinking it,
yeah.
and then be able to refute what they're saying with your own logic and statistics and data. So
is there a website yet for this group you're forming?
There's not. We're just going to be advertising it right now through Texas Young Republicans, through Texas Federation of Republican Women, and hopefully after some success that I anticipate, we'll start building it out. And maybe you're right. Maybe it'll be a nationwide thing, hopefully.
Well, that would be a great idea. I mean, a website, and there's no Facebook page for it either right now.
No, not right now. Not right now. We're just getting the ball. We actually just started talking about this a couple weeks ago. So
we're
in the
like
building
we're
stages.
We're breaking ground here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now I'm going to have to track you down again after this gets
Please.
going because well, it's such a great idea, and the idea, even people listening today, you could be thinking, well, maybe they wouldn't do it in such an organized way as you have, but you can do this, stimulate people to have a conversation, to listen to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be contentious, and like I said, there's so much on the line, especially when we look at Second Amendment rights dwindling in front of our eyes. I'm seeing right now on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, supporting things like gun-free zones, red flag laws, extended background checks, universal background checks. And I need people very badly to understand what exactly that's doing. Confiscation is already here.
Oh, in Virginia, well, actually, I don't know if it passed in Virginia. I think it got dropped, didn't it, in Virginia?
Right, it did.
Yeah.
So actually, though, we're seeing, even through just red flag laws, what that's done in New Jersey, Florida, Maryland. We're seeing thousands of guns already confiscated. People say all the time, oh, that'll never happen in the States. It's happening before our eyes. So
actually, this is quick check where we're on time. On the red flag laws, the gist of that, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the gist of it is that if you are concerned about a loved one, a neighbor, someone you know about, and you think, this guy over here has a gun and I think he's a little bit dangerous, it is a short-circuited way you go and get a court order, I guess, and to say, there's some process and they decide this person's gun should be taken away.
Yes.
So what is it? So obviously you're not supportive of that.
No, because it totally eliminates a person's right to due process.
Yes. Okay.
And these court orders, by the way, are happening within 1 day, 84% of the time. How often does justice move that swiftly?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
So this is really something we need to be keeping our eye on. Why is that happening so quickly? So yeah, definitely. I'm definitely opposed to this. You should not, based off of what somebody says, have your right taken away. Because just like we witnessed with Brett Kavanaugh, people can say some things that may or may not be true, and you shouldn't. I mean, the court of public opinion is no authority over your rights.
Absolutely true. Wow. Okay, Leyla, I'm so inspired both by your bravery, your standing.
Thank you.
I mean, I suppose back to your Massachusetts situation, Curtis said, okay, if I get rid of the gun, but you weren't even thinking about negotiating about,
No.
can I make you happy? You understand your rights and you wanted to hold on to them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Leyla, thank you so much for coming in today. This is just incredible. I'm going to follow up with you. I would love to have you on again and hear about how your next meetings go.
Would love it.
And thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.